A lot to talk about. We did not go on this past weekend. We both had a lot of stuff to do, so we just kind of took that weekend off, and so we have not talked to our Dodgers dogs for a week. It's been a long time. We have missed y'all. We hope that you guys missed us. But hey, first of all, Austin, the Will Smith news is big right now. That's the big news there. But other than that, what you got, man?
Yeah, no, first off, Casey, it's really good to hear from you, to see you, to be with the Dodgers Daily audience. And know it's been about a week or so that we've taken a little bit of time to kind of decompress and rest before we get into the marathon that is about to start tomorrow. It was kind of like what felt like a little bit of a false start with actual games that counted playing off in Korea. Really cool spectacle, great for the country of South Korea and the fans and the people over there. Now things get real. At least the marathon of the regular season starts tomorrow, and it has started off with a bang. At least this offseason, or perhaps you could say this offseason has concluded with another great signing by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will Smith is going to be a Dodger, at least from what it looks like, potentially for life. He signed a 10-year, $140 million extension to be with the Dodgers through the 2023 season. We'll go into the details as far as the contract of how it's broken down. From what I have taken notice of, this seems to be a steal for the Dodgers with the value that Will Smith brings in. Yes, he's going to be getting older as his contract progresses, but with the value that you're paying a Will Smith, he plays an essential role for this team. He's going to be a Dodger for a long time, and honestly, Will Smith could have gotten a lot more money than what he got for the Dodgers. The Dodgers got a really good deal out of Will Smith. We'll break down the numbers in just a minute.
I do not think we already have a good crowd logging in, and hey, once again, we missed you, Dodgers dogs. I know we didn't go on over the weekend, and that killed us. Austin and I could not wait to get hot back on and talk to all of you great people out there. So we have a good crowd, and the big question so far is, does this mean that Diego Cartaya and Dalton Rushing, are they on the chopping block for possibly Willy Adames? That would be the big question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So I think before we get into that, let me break down some of the numbers of some of the details. Let's talk about the actual time frame, and then we'll talk about potential implications, both of what this could mean for the catchers going forward, and what this means for that position, and potential alternatives of what the Dodgers could look for. So just looking at Will Smith's contract, this is from Mark Feinsand, reporter.
Win in the Cal League
has stated in broken down Will Smith's contract. So Will Smith is going to receive a $30 million signing bonus. Then in 2024, he's going to receive $13.55 million. Then 2025 through 2027, $13 million. 2028 to 2032, he's going to receive $9.5 million. And then the last year of his contract, his 10th year of this extension, is going to be $9.95 million. It does include $5 million of deferred money that will be paid out annually from 2034 to 2034 to 2043. These years don't even really sound real a whole lot when talking about it in baseball terms. Will Smith is going to be and is under contract for fairly cheap with the value that he brings for being a 4-type WAR catcher. You don't find those very often. To get him for less than $15 million a year of annual value, that is an absolute steal. So the question is, what does this implicate for some of the future catching crop that is coming up through this system? We talk a lot about a Diego Cartaya, who was at this time last season considered to be the top prospect in the Dodgers system. We talked a lot about Dalton Rushing, who many see as and he is an incredible prospect, as well as a Tyrone Lorenzo, and as well as all of the other great catchers in this system, like Yainer Fernandez, a Griffin Lockwood-Powell, a Jesus Galiz, a Simon Reed, and you can go up and down across all of these different catchers. What does this mean for the catching position of the Dodgers? One, it does create a little bit of a roadblock at the catching position. It's a good roadblock to have because you're having one of the best major league caliber catchers on your major league club for a long time. That is one. Great to have a Will Smith who is an offensive force when he's at the plate. Really good offensive numbers throughout his entire career. Has been pretty solid defensively at the position to this point. So the question when you're evaluating this catching position right now, one, you have Will Smith there. That is an absolute guarantee. With the contract that he has signed, he's going to be at the catching position for a while. The question is, and this is something that I don't know what the Dodgers have in mind, and it's very hard to project because the catching position is an incredibly demanding position, meaning Will Smith cannot play 162 games at the catching position. Otherwise, the Dodgers probably would prefer Will Smith to catch every single game this upcoming season. There is going to be opportunities for other catchers to get playing time. The question is that sufficient? And what creative alternatives are you going to have to get some of these guys at bats, especially since the designated hitter position is closed off for the next 10 years with Shohei Ohtani taking over that role. That complicates things a little bit. So there is going to be some limitation at the catching position. The question I have, and I think going forward, is how long is Will Smith primarily going to be playing catcher a whole lot, or at least what is his role at the catcher position? Are they thinking about potentially within 5 to 6 years, potentially getting him some playing time at other positions? Because the way that you can implement some of these additional catchers, and this is what I saw through the course of the minor league system, particularly at the high level last year in 2023, if you have positional versatility in some of your catchers, that creates opportunities to have some of these other guys come up through this system. So if Will Smith can play a little bit, let's just say third base, that could create opportunities for some of these other guys to come up. We know a Yainer Fernandez can play a lot of second base, or a Dalton Rushing can play first base. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but that could create some additional opportunities for some Diego Cartaya, Dalton Rushing, Jesus Galiz, Tyrone Lorenzo, all of these guys. If there is positional versatility, perhaps there are avenues of opportunity. There's also going to have to be a backup catcher, which they're going to have open and available, and especially if the backup catcher has some positional versatility, that's going to create opportunities. That is a trend that seems to be happening within the Dodgers system, which seems to link credence to possible opportunities for these catchers in this system to come up to the big leagues. However, that is not a guarantee anymore. The Dodgers signed and have extended one of the best catchers in Major League Baseball. That's going to create a roadblock, and I think it is very likely that some of these catchers, great catchers that are coming up through the system that will deserve opportunities at some point at the Major League level, they are going to likely be involved in some type of trade piece, which is something that I think we've been talking about at least a little bit in some of the other potential trade ideas. So I think there is potential for room for them, but not a guarantee right now in any sense of the word.
Yeah, I don't honestly, just looking at this, I don't think it means any of that. I just think it means that the Dodgers had a chance to re-sign a great player, a catcher in a position. He plays a position catcher that is a premium position. He's big, he's strong. Yeah. He's shown that physically he can handle it. He's shown that he can hit and play catcher. I don't think they took any of that other stuff into the equation. I just think they took it one step at a time and looked at it as we have a chance to sign a really freaking good player for a long time under a really team-friendly contract. I don't care what the repercussions are of it. We're signing this guy. I think it was literally as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes down to it, especially with the contract that he got, with the average annual value,
How
being
stupid would you have to
under-
be not to sign that contract if you're the Dodgers, right? I mean, my opinion.
Absolutely. And I'm completely shocked that they were able to get Will Smith on a deal like that. That is an absolutely insane team-friendly type of contract, especially if you go along through 10 years with the value of contracts just seemingly continuing to increase. That's going to look even better and better and better, even as he does age into his age 35 plus years. He's going to still provide value to this team if he's able to continue the offense that he's able to provide. So first off, that is a no doubter for the Dodgers. If they can lock up who is the best catcher in the game of baseball during the window where they desperately need to have good offensive players, the best players in the games of baseball, when they to maximize their opportunity to win right now, they are absolutely going to do that. They took advantage. They absolutely should have done it, no matter if they had all the catching prospects in the world, which they already have a ton. They had the opportunity to sign a top 3 catcher in the game of baseball to a long-term deal to be a Dodger for life. They're going to do it. And now we get to talk a little bit about moving forward. And that's when you get to some of the complex pieces that I was kind of bringing up, as far as how do you move forward with the trade pieces that you have, and what are some of the implications of that, and how do you possibly create avenues of opportunity for some of these catchers, if not that you're planning to give them those opportunities, but to create more leverage in trade negotiations. There's a lot of complexity that happens after this. However, today, now that Will Smith has signed, it is an absolute great day, as it usually is, to be a Dodger, to be a Dodgers fan, because your catching position is locked up. Now you have long-term deals to Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Will Smith to be the anchor, the core of this offense, as well as Freddie Freeman, who's going to be here for the next 4 years as well.
That's why I also say if Walker Buehler has a good year and he's willing to give the team any kind of somewhat friendly deal, that the Dodgers will want to re-sign him. The Dodgers have shown when they have guys that they can put in their trust tree, like Will Smith. The Dodgers don't trust very many people, okay? It's hard to get in the Dodgers trust tree. So when you're a guy like Walker Buehler, Will Smith, all these guys that are, of course, Shohei Ohtani or Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, they're automatically going to enter into that trust tree just because they're great. So, but if you're a guy that has proven that you can be in that trust tree, that's a guy the Dodgers are going to try to keep as much as they possibly can. But I'll kind of counter what people are saying there, and I think a little bit about what you said. I mean, if you're doing this to trade your other catchers, this actually decreases your leverage with those guys, because now all the other clubs are thinking, well, you have to trade these catchers because now you have Will Smith, so you don't have any leverage because we know you have to trade these guys. So if the idea was actually to trade Dalton Rushing or Diego Cartaya, the last thing you would want to do is wait until after you re-signed Will Smith to a 10-year contract to do that with. You've completely lost all of that leverage at this point. So I don't think that signing at all means that the Dodgers did it with any kind of plans to trade anybody.
Yes, and that's when you take that next step moving forward. And when we talk a little bit about potential positional versatility, different options for the catching position, especially if you have some of these younger guys come up. And we've seen it with some of these younger guys. Tyrone Lorenzo can play first base. Dalton Rushing played a lot of first base as well. Yainer Fernandez can play second base. If you can add different elements, that means that you don't have them locked up exclusively at a catching position that's already blocked, that their top target could be a backup catcher to a Will Smith. Then you don't really have a whole lot of leverage. But if you add positional versatility to some of the younger guys, or even to a Will Smith, which I'm not anticipating right now because they need him.
He'll move off a catcher. He'll be an infielder at some point, and I think it'll be sooner than you think. At some point, he
will be. In which case, you're going to need a catcher to come up through this system. So they are still in a position where. And they can create this by allowing some of these guys to play different positions, to where they can go back to teams and say, no, Dalton Rushing is not just going to be a catcher. He is not just exclusively a catcher. He also can be an heir to a Freddie Freeman at a first base, or you can play different positions. You can go and have these negotiation techniques to where, yes, we have a lot of different catchers, but they can also play a lot of different positions. I saw a lot in Great Lakes last season where they had 3-4 catchers or guys that could play catcher in their lineup. They can do a lot of moving around different pieces to make this work. And so I think that is something that the Dodgers can do going forward, but I don't think that entered in the equation right now when they had an opportunity to strike gold, when they had an opportunity to sign Will Smith to this type of deal. You do it, and then you deal with what has to happen afterwards. And it's a good problem for the Dodgers to have, to where they have so many great catchers within this system, to where you're arguing about when are these guys going to get opportunities, or how do we keep up with our leverage on this major league club. Dodgers are doing something right if that is the case, and that is the case. And now they can continue to add leverage by adding a whole bunch of different elements to this, to where you don't lose all of the negotiation leverage that you would have in possible trade scenarios if the Dodgers are looking to trade some of these guys.
So, believe it or not, the Dodgers don't sit around and go, okay, well, we got 7 catchers, so okay, who do we have in the pecking order here? Who's next? And they don't sit around. I mean, of course, they know Will Smith is number 1 in their pecking order. They know Austin Barnes is number 2. Beyond that, to be honest with you, it could be anybody. I mean, it could be a guy that we saw last year. They go out and they get so they can DFA him, right? I mean, it literally, if Austin Barnes went down, there is no telling what the Dodgers would do and who they would choose. And so they don't sit around and go, okay, well, we think in 4 years it's going to be Dalton Rushing. Well, maybe it's Diego. They don't do that. What they do is they go, okay, well, we have Will Smith and Austin Barnes at the major league level right now, so that's taken care of. We know that we have Hunter Fiducia and Chris Oakey. Last year it was David Freitas and Patrick Mazeika. We have those guys at the AAA level. Then, okay, from that point on, here's how the Dodgers evaluate this, right? They go, okay, well, how can we get every single one of these guys 500 at-bats, right? And then create a little bit of positional versatility. That's the extent of the time that they put into the thought process of each catcher. They're not going, okay, well, in 2026, we want Dalton Rushing to do. No, they're going, okay, how about in 2024, how do we get Dalton Rushing and Diego Cartaya both 500 at-bats and 90 games catching behind the plate on the same team in Tulsa? That's the extent of how they're approaching both of those guys at this point. So I think we as fans, it's fun to kind of, project into the future and that kind of thing, but it's like Back to the Future type stuff for this. I'm just telling you, man, they have way too many different scenarios. Now, do they have a basic map and a blueprint to, maybe rosters? Yes. But that's not what they make their daily decisions on. They're not. They're right now. They're not going, okay, well, we think Rushing's going to get up above Cartaya. So they're just not doing that. What they're actually trying to do again is they're trying to make Diego Cartaya the best catcher he can possibly be. Right. Then what else they're doing is they're trying to make Dalton Rushing the best catcher that he possibly can be. They're trying to make Chris Oakey and Hunter Fiducia the best catchers they possibly can be. That's the extent of it. I'll promise you that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Player development is not linear. Player development takes different forms for every single player, and every single player within this organization plays a critical role for the overall goal of the Dodgers to go and win the World Series. It might not look like a lot if you're in high A or low A or double A. And what is my role in helping the Dodgers win? You can help the Dodgers win by going out there, performing in this player development staff to try to make you the best possible player that you possibly can be, because you don't know all of the potentials that each one of these guys have. There's been guys who have gone undrafted who have carved out good, solid careers. And there's been guys who have been first-round picks who have struggled once they've got to the minor leagues across all levels and all different systems. And if you try to prioritize this one guy above all of the other guys, it can create some problems. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to have to focus on trying to get certain guys at bats, and they're going to have to make decisions. But player development is not linear. It's very difficult to predict this type of stuff at the minor league level. So they're going to give these guys opportunities, rooms to grow, and they're going to watch their progress. And this player development staff, the coaches, they're going to be talking to a whole bunch of guys through the system and hope that every single one of these guys performs and does well to force decisions like this for the Dodgers to where you have too many good players, because this is a great problem to have if you are the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, because that creates a whole wide variety of opportunities to either call guys up or bring guys into your system that can make your club even that much better.
Here's another aspect to it, kind of just to add to what I'm saying. As I sit with these scouts at the Tulsa games and the Oklahoma City games, another thing that the Dodgers simply can't predict is which scout is going to like which player that the Dodgers have the most and what they're going to like about them. And it's going to be based on what needs their organization has at that time and a certain skill set that they need. There is no possible way that the Dodgers can predict any of that as a Dave Holliday sits and for the Phillies and watches both of these guys or watches the rest of the roster. The Dodgers simply have no idea what kind of offers will come in from which organizations. And because of that, really the best way to do that is just to figure out how to get each player the most amount of playing time they can to maximize their value, to make them the best player they can be. So if they do need to flip them at that proper time, then they can flip them for the exact type of players that they want. So, hey, that's a fascinating conversation, Austin. We have a great crowd logging in tonight. Roy, good evening, Roy. Roy says Muncy at the hot corner is a big problem. Third base is called the hot corner for a reason. We can't afford to give opponents another at bat or to extend an inning. We cannot increase a starter's pitch count. I've said it many different times. Max Muncy just is what he is, both offensively and defensively. Would you agree with that, Austin?
I absolutely agree with that, and I have defended Max Muncy in the past, not saying that he is a good defensive player. He is not. He grades out well below average by the defensive metrics. Last year, he was not the worst defensive third baseman in the game of baseball by outs above average. He was towards the bottom of the leaderboard, and we saw him struggle, particularly in Game 2 in Korea, make a lot of fairly routine plays, and that can be an issue if you are the Dodgers, if you're Max Muncy. However, he still does, and I'm going to continue to say this, still does provide a lot of offensive value over the course of the full regular season. He has consistently been a well above average hitter in the major leagues, hitting at above 110 WRC plus numbers.
Will that make up for his defense?
Yes, and that, if you look at a lot of the defensive or the WAR metrics, was taken into account base running, takes into account defense, it takes into account the offensive value. He has been a good, solid, productive 2+ WAR player for the duration of his career. Max Muncy has been really good.
That takes into account both offense and defense.
That does not just take into account the offensive value. It also takes into account the defensive value. So yes, Max Muncy struggles defensively. The Dodgers are going to have to live with that, and they will live with that. They signed him to a 2-year offseason, a 2-year, $24 million extension with the value that he provides. That is a steal for a Max Muncy. He is a core contributor for this club. You may not like it a whole lot. He is inconsistent. He will struggle defensively. However, he is going to be a part of this club unless it gets so unbearably bad that the Dodgers are forced to make their hand. Right now, I think they are comfortable with the fact that he provides a lot of offensive value, a lot of offensive upside. And just looking over some of his numbers right now, just reading you some of the WAR numbers over the past, since he's come to the Dodgers organization, 2018, 4.6, and this is Fangraphs WAR. 2018, 4.6.
Yeah.
2019, 4.8. 2020 was just 0.2. 60-game season, small sample size. 2021, 4.8. 2022, 2.4. 2023, 2.9. Max Muncy has been a consistently good player for this Dodgers team. He's not a great defensive player. Perhaps it's the worst defensive performance that he's put out in his career during this upcoming season. His offensive upside that he provides, though, I still believe is worth it to keep it on his club.
So what if I gave you this context? And this is coming from an old school guy. Just watching with my own eyes, I get all the modern day analytics, and hey, I like them. I use them in my tweets. I use them in my columns. I use them in my evaluations and all that kind of thing. So I am not anti-analytics. But what if I were to say this? He's below average offensively or defensively, and offensively, those advanced analytics are only good because he gets to come to the plate with more runners in scoring position than any other player in the major leagues. And so he has way more opportunities to improve his advanced analytics than other players do, and that he doesn't actually produce more than other players. He's just put in better situations by his teammates. How would you answer that question?
That goes into the context of what goes into WRC plus and the actual advanced numbers, which takes a heavy precedent into and is rooted deep into statistics like WOBA. That does not take into account runners in scoring position. That just exclusively takes into account the offensive output that you have. So it doesn't matter if there's nobody on, if there's two runners on. It does not take that into account in WRC plus. That's not part of the formulation, which with what Max Muncy provides, he provides a lot of consistently well above average offensive numbers. Last year was 118. It does not take into RBIs. It just exclusively takes in the amount of production that you have, regardless of who is on base. So that is what the WRC plus number is measuring, because it tries to take into account a lot of different factors that you can control. And so with Max Muncy, with what he's able to do, he hits for a lot of power, and that's going to turn a lot of one-run games with the runners in scoring position that he gets put into. It's going to turn a lot of one-runs into multiple runs and really put some crooked numbers on the board.
So let's say that he went from being the player in the Major League Baseball that got to hit, instead of being the player that gets to hit with the most amount of runners on base and in scoring position. What if that flipped on its head and he hit with the least amount of runners in scoring position and on base when he came up to the plate? That wouldn't affect his WRC plus or his WAR metrics?
No, okay. It would not.
Okay.
No. Unless I'm mistaken by some of the calculations.
Okay.
From a lot of the calculations that I've seen before, it just takes into account your own individual factors.
That's awesome. What an awesome conversation that is. That is right there, man. That conversation goes on in the war rooms. Well, you saw it from Tom Kunis, the interview that I did with him, the scout for the Dodgers. He point blank told you, man, you got guys like Austin there that are explaining all these WAR metrics, the advanced analytics. You got guys like me that are a little bit old school, just firing bullet after bullet after bullet, and you get into these wonderful conversations. And then the great part of it is, because everybody gets their voice and gets to explain themselves, that's why the Dodgers come up with such great decisions on a consistent basis, right? Because they take everything into consideration.
Yeah, no, it's very important to keep all of these things into consideration. And it's also important to keep into context just how good of a player Max Muncy is with all of these things considered. Yes, there are things about his game that are not good and that he needs to work on. Mm-hmm. His defensive at third base was not acceptable during the loss in Game 2 against San Diego. But there are also things of his game. There's reasons why the Dodgers did bring him back and sign him to a 2-year deal. Part of which is he gets put up in a lot of situations with runners in scoring position. And throughout his career with runners in scoring position, WRC plus 136. He's 36% above league average in his career with runners in scoring position. He can still provide a lot of damage. He's been consistently good, and that's what Max Muncy's role is on this team. He's been a leader on this team, but he's also that guy that can help drive in a lot of runners in once they get on base, and he can put up those crooked numbers to really help the Dodgers pull ahead and score a lot of runs in those situations.
No doubt about that. Hey, Roy, that was a great conversation to get into. I thank you so much for starting that up. What a great conversation to start our evening up with. We have a great crowd. Hey, if you have not done so, click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, become a subscriber. I think we're like at 31 right now, so we've added 31 since we had our celebration. Then when we went over 3,000, and then also make sure and turn on your notifications. We have a great crowd. Roy, we've already talked about Nando 390. Good evening. Trey B, good evening to everybody. Justin Lamas is in the house. Michael Carrillo talking about Diego Cartaya, Dalton Rushing. We got into that conversation too. Jason Soretti, it is great to see you too. Thank you so much for joining Dodgers Dogs. It is Wednesday night in the big town on Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. So thank you so much for tuning in. Showtime. Does this mean, yeah, we've already talked about Cartaya and Dalton Rushing. Does that mean that they'll be traded away? That was a very interesting conversation. And, hey, this is a big one. I like what Cole says here. Kind of cool that, hey, Will Smith, obviously a great player, but cool that a homegrown player, which he totally was a homegrown player by the Dodgers, gets extended like that.
Oh, yeah. No, that is really good to see. That is not something that happens a whole lot in the game of baseball. A lot of these homegrown talents being extended and being career players for their organization. It's just a little bit more rare to see, or at least it seems to be a little bit more rare to see now. So to get a player like a Will Smith, who is going to be a part of this Dodgers organization, presumably for his entire career, that is really cool to see. He's going to be a Dodger for his entire life. And yeah, no, it's cool for the game of baseball. It's cool for fans. It's something that it's kind of a shame that players don't do this as much as they had before, just because of the legacies that you can provide for being a part of an organization for a long time. I get why it's trended a little bit otherwise, but to have a guy like Will Smith to be a part of the Dodgers for his career is great for the city of Los Angeles, great for the Dodgers organization, and it's a great match for Will Smith.
Nando 390 says that the Cubs won the Michael Busch trade.
I will say, wait to see what happens with Michael Busch, Zaire Hope, and Jackson Ferris. It is far, far too early to make any sort of determination as far as which team won a trade, because you have not had much of a chance. You saw a little bit during some of the spring training games to see outings from Jackson Ferris or Zaire Hope and see their development at the minor league level. I know Michael Busch, I believe, has an opening day role with the Chicago Cubs. We absolutely root for him. We wish him nothing but the best in Chicago, and we hope that he goes and has a phenomenal big league career. But the fact with the Dodgers is he would not have had that role. He would not have had that opportunity with the Dodgers in this system if he was still part of the Dodgers organization. So I'm glad that the Dodgers made that trade and did right by Michael Busch. I'm glad that he's not spending another summer stuck in Oklahoma City. He's going to get his opportunity in Chicago. The Dodgers still got a couple of really talented guys back in that Michael Busch trade. So be patient. Watch their development, because they could turn out to be a couple of really good, promising prospects, really good, promising big league players. It is far too early to tell whether or not the Dodgers won or lost that type of deal. And I don't like making that determination even before the major league season of the following offseason has started, or before any of these guys have even had a chance to suit up in a Dodgers affiliate uniform yet.
Here's another reason why I think both teams are probably going to win. I mean, I think he's probably going to play mostly first base with the Cubs. Wouldn't you agree with that, Austin?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how the Cubs utilize him. I think he will definitely be playing probably a lot of first base, maybe some designated hitter, maybe some third base, depending on when the Cubs need. I don't know exactly, just because I'm not as in tune with the Chicago Cubs.
Because first base and designated hitter for the Dodgers, I mean.
Oh, I know. There's yeah. As I said, where is he going to play for the Dodgers?
Yeah, right.
He would be playing for Oklahoma City Baseball Club now. So
right. I mean, and so unless you think that the Dodgers should have just cut bait with Max Muncy and put Michael Busch at third base and made Michael Busch your everyday third baseman, and Michael Busch is so much better than Max Muncy that he makes up for Jackson Ferris and Zaire Hope. Let me say that again. Is Michael Busch so much better than Max Muncy at third base that he makes up for Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris? Is he that much better than Max Muncy, even if you think that the Dodgers should have gotten rid of Max Muncy or not re-signed him and put Busch over there? I mean,
yeah, and
that's my argument to that. And I love Michael Busch. I've tooted Michael Busch's horn more than anybody.
Yeah.
But the Dodgers clear. Even if Michael Busch has an all-star career at Chicago, the Dodgers made the right decision here. 100% made the right decision.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And talking about Michael Busch and Max Muncy, both have very similar-ish type profiles, meaning that they're a little bit more of that offensive first type of players. So I'm guessing the concern with Max Muncy usually has to do with a lot of the defensive issues that you have. I'm not saying that Michael Busch isn't a better defender than a Max Muncy.
Better upside, I can tell you that.
Yes. And as far as the value that he brings, that much better than a Max Muncy, I don't think it is worth it to not have a Jackson Ferris,
right. That's
to not
my point.
have a Zaire Hope. Yes.
Right. Would you rather have Max Muncy, Zaire Hope, and Jackson Ferris, or would you rather have Yency Almonte and Michael Busch? That's to me how you have to evaluate that. Not Michael Busch versus maybe just Max Muncy straight up, because let's say even if Michael Busch is a little bit better than Max Muncy, which no saying that he will be. Let's say that the Cubs put Michael Busch at third base, and Michael Busch ends up being a better player this year than Max Muncy. How much better of a player is he going to be? A lot? A little? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's gonna be the real question. And then again, we wish nothing but the best for Michael Busch. We've talked a lot about him and have tried to make it so that he gets a big league opportunity. Last year, he performed extraordinarily well. Didn't get a ton of runtime at the major league level. He's going to get that opportunity for the Chicago Cubs. So we're rooting for him as he continues on with that journey. Definitely rooting for him, and also super excited with the talent that the Dodgers were able to bring back and continue to restock this farm system, continue to add talent to all of the other great, phenomenal talent that's part of this farm system. That is an essential part to continuing to be a consistent contender. That's how you have a team that is towards the top of the standings. It does not just take guys at the major league level. It takes the entire organization to perform and be effective and be winning throughout. That is very important to have. So having that into consideration and getting a couple of great pieces, I think was really important for the Dodgers to do.
So if I were to ask you, of course, we watch a lot of minor league baseball, getting ready to start watching it a lot here, coming up real soon. If I were to ask you, what's the two weakest parts of the Dodgers prospect system for as position goes? I think it would be pretty easy.
As far as position goes,
I would think you would have to say outfielders and then left-handed starting pitching. I would say that's the two weakest spots in the Dodgers prospect system, and I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, I guess this is a question that I haven't really thought a whole lot about.
Well, I mean, beyond Andy Pages and Jose Ramos, who are the big outfield prospects? You see what I'm saying?
You have guys at the lower level, particularly who were at Rancho last season.
19-year-olds.
Yeah, sure. And there's still a lot of talent. There's still a lot of excitement that you can have with those guys. And then if you're talking just at the upper level of the minor league system, when you're talking about guys that are getting close to being called up, I think you could say those are definitely some areas where there might not be obvious or ready to go per se a whole lot of options, but there's still a lot of really good guys that are left-handed pitchers, left-handed starting pitchers. We know Justin Robleski is coming up, and then outfielders. There's a couple of different options as well. So the Dodgers also, they addressed that very question through the course of this offseason. They identified shortstop as well as being an area where they could use some depth, and they got a Trey Sweeney. They got a Noah Miller, who was an essential part of that Cedar Rapids Kernels 2023 Midwest League Championship team. They're definitely keeping in mind every aspect of their organization when doing all of these different decisions, which is exactly what you need to do.
I just think they refilled depth with quality prospects at positions in the farm system that needed depth added to it. You needed a dynamite type outfielder in Zaire Hope. You also needed another left-handed starter since you moved Ronan Kopp to the bullpen. I think the Jackson Ferris acquisition allows you to keep Ronan Kopp in the bullpen, and I think because of that, Ronan Kopp's going to be throwing 117 miles an hour from the left side by the time he makes the major league. So, hey, man.
You're not wrong about that.
Yeah, you guys know how I felt about Michael Busch, and I was not happy that the Dodgers did not turn him for major league ready talent. I felt like that was a little bit of an undersell. Having said that, the Jackson Ferris and Zaire Hope, not only are those two guys potentially great players, but they also are in positions of need, in my opinion, in the Dodgers prospect system. So, hey, we have a wonderful crowd going on tonight. Showtime. Good evening, Craig. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining. Hep C, season hadn't started yet. For the rest of the league, people are judging players. Okay, yeah, no doubt. We're judging players in the season. Well, the season is 2 days in. But, hey, Trey B., good evening. Hope to God Austin Barnes doesn't sign another extension. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to allow his contract to end. So if I were to just ask you point blank, Austin Brubaker, what do you think? Is Dalton Rushing going to get dealt?
I'm going to say no right now, although it would not surprise me one bit. The betting money.
Good Lord, are you running for governor of Michigan, or what are we doing here?
Oh yeah, no, that is exactly right. So the betting money, it says, which I'm not planning on betting on this, but no, but I could see it potentially happening with this move.
Nando 390 says Moncada or Rosarina will be a Dodger at the deadline.
Yeah, who was the first name again? I heard Randy Rosarina, which is a name that has been Moncada. Out of Chicago, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Randy Rosarina because we've talked about him quite a bit. It depend entirely on where the Tampa Bay Rays are at and what their process is as far as trading Randy Rosarina, because I think it's pretty evident that is likely to come at some point just because of the way the Tampa Bay Rays operate. However, I also know how the Tampa Bay Rays operate, and they win a lot of baseball games, which means they very likely are going to be in competition in the race, and I don't think they're going to give up a Randy Rosarina easily. It's going to be incredibly costly. It's going to be incredibly painful, and I don't think they particularly, unless they're completely out of the race, want to do that until the offseason. So perhaps that is an off-season move that takes place, in which case there's definitely holes that can happen into this roster during the in the outfield that are coming up. Teoscar Hernandez won't be on the club. Jason Hayward won't be on the club, or at least they're not on. There won't be under contract next season. I think that's when that likely would take place. But right now, I'm still anticipating the Tampa Bay Rays to be competitive. And so I'm not saying that is likely at this moment.
Yeah, and then Johnny DeLuca, hopefully his hand heals up, and hopefully Ryan Pepio has a great year.
Yes.
They just traded away Luke Raley, by the way. Luke Raley had a good year for them last year. Mr. Seabad, good evening. As a former high school catcher and longtime Dodger fan, I could not tell you how happy I am the Dodgers invested in the catcher position long term. Long live Steve Yeager. Yeah, One Eye Dragon says Mookie can play catcher when Will Smith plays third base. Hey, Mookie can play anywhere, right?
Oh, I mean, he's already shown that. He can play absolutely anywhere that this club needs. And that just shows you the insane athleticism that Mookie Betts has, and it shows some of the character that he has too. I know, especially with some of the playoff performances, some of his character is coming into question, but with his leadership and being able to change positions, especially this season and last season as well, I think his actions do speak pretty loudly, and I think that is a player that desperately wants to win, and he's got all the skill set in the world to be anywhere that the club needs him, and you can't express how valuable Mookie Betts is to this club.
Hey, Denard, good evening. Thank you so much for joining the Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. It is Wednesday night in the big town here on Dodgers Dawgs. Chris Fauborg, good evening, Chris, and Friedman. We trust. Hey, here's a question from David Razor. What do I always say about our crowd, Austin?
Oh, it's not the biggest crowd yet, but it is the best crowd out there.
No doubt about it. David Razor says, how are pitchers adjusting to Outman? But more importantly, what does Outman need to do to adjust for a sophomore year? Thanks for your expertise. Always learn a lot from you, too. So the one thing that Outman needs to do is he needs to cover that high pitch, especially high and inside. He either needs to make sure it's a strike and not swing at it, or he needs to flatten the swing at the top of the zone to be able to get to that high pitch. That's number one. And number two, he needs to identify spin and swing at the right pitches. That's why I kept saying in spring training, it's okay that he's not getting hits, because you got to look at the process, and the process says he is swinging at the right pitches. And when a guy as talented as James Outman swings at the right pitches, the process will eventually take over, and the odds will kick in, and the odds would say that James Outman would have success at that point.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Right now, I'm not even necessarily looking at results if that means that the results aren't good part of the process. Let me explain what I mean by that right now. Right now, as far as the signs that I'd rather see from James Outman, I would much rather see a good, solid line drive be caught for an out than a weak, lucky base hit that
Correct.
On a 0-0 count that isn't good for the part of the process. And right now, what you saw through the course of his season so far out in Korea, he was able to draw walks. He did have a couple of at-bats that did end in good, solid contact, which is good to see. Those are some of the things that I'm looking for a James Outman, like a 106 mile per hour ground out that had an expected batted average of 610. Those are some of the type of things that I'm looking for with James Outman right now, is some of the good, solid, hard contact that he's able to make because he's swinging at the right pitches, and also being able to draw some walks. So yes, there is going to be an adjustment period with James Outman. As you go through the course of your major league career, I think there's always going to be adjustment periods because pitchers are going to try different things to get players out. James Outman showed last season real character at the big league level, though, with the way he was able to adapt through some of the early season great successes to some of the mid-season struggles, and he was able to really rebound to be one of the most valuable players at center field in the game of baseball.
Are the Dodgers going to let him hit against lefties?
I mean, right now they are going to give him a lot of at-bats, especially early in the game. This is something that the Dodgers are going to be dealing with throughout the entire season, is opposing clubs are going to throw all of their left-handed pitchers against the Dodgers because of how many good left-handed hitters the Dodgers have. So whether James Outman likes it or not, he's going to have to get used to it because he's going to see a lot of left-handed pitching, and it's something where he provides a lot of value in center field. He provides a lot of value at the plate. He's going to get plenty of opportunities against left-handed pitching, especially because I think they would rather substitute for a Jason Hayward than a James Outman.
Oh, really?
In this, as far as going against left-handed pitching. I think they would rather do that because I think Jason Hayward, with the value that he provides, comes from his value against right-handed pitching. You saw a little bit of a drastic decrease from Jason Hayward against right-handed pitchers versus left-handed pitchers. So later in the game, when there's different substitution, when you bring in a Chris Taylor or a Kike Hernandez, I think they would probably maybe, let's say, 3 times out of 4 substitute for a Jason Hayward, then a James Outman, which means that I think James Outman is going to still see a lot of left-handed pitchers through this upcoming season, and that is going to be a theme that the Dodgers are going to have to deal with throughout the regular season and into the postseason.
So you don't think that Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez are going to take a lot of those at-bats away from Hayward and Outman?
I think they will take away some at-bats. I don't think they'll take away all, or perhaps, I guess it depends. I think they will take away some at-bats, but I think they'll take them more away from a Jason Hayward than a James Outman.
Soul Bro, thank you so much for joining. I always love it when Soul Bro joins. Says, just made it. Howdy, guys. Cole says that the Dodgers have a complete starting rotation on the IL with Ohtani and wanting Roki Sasaki. There will be some hard decisions to be made. Life is good for Dodgers fans. Hey, Michael Hoffer, good afternoon, good evening, Michael Hoffer. Thank you so much for joining. I think Rojas needs to go to short and Mookie back to right field. Rojas would help out both Muncy and Lux. What do you think about that? Do you like that idea?
So can you repeat the idea one more time, please?
Rojas to shortstop, Mookie back to right field.
Mookie back to right field. So then you wouldn't have a Jason Hayward be part of the lineup. Perhaps that is something that could come into the equation. That is certainly, if you want to not sacrifice a Gavin Lux and be part of this club, have him still be a primary role at second base. That could be something that the Dodgers, especially if they are desperate for some of the defense at shortstop with. It's good that the Dodgers have that insurance with a Miggy Rojas to where you can put him in at shortstop. He's going to be well above average at shortstop as you need him, which right now I think they're planning on just using him perhaps later in games. I'm not saying I don't think that is likely yet, but if it comes to trying to protect Mookie Betts and keep him as healthy as he can be, perhaps that is a move, especially if Jason Hayward struggles at all offensively and there's some concern about the defense on the left side. That's not a bad idea at all. We just have to wait to see if that plays out.
Craig Osterberg's bringing his A game early tonight. Craig, good evening. Thank you so much for joining. He says Muncy will struggle against bunting teams that are fast, like Arizona. Also says the problem with the trade deadline is that most teams are still in it for the playoffs. That artificially drives up the prices. I have been preaching that. That's why I said last year before the offseason, the Dodgers have to pivot to being a trade deadline team, to being a trade or a free agency team in the offseason, and they made that transition. And then Craig also says, I thought Will Smith would be $18 to $20 million player, so a good deal for the Dodgers, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely. They got, as we stated at the top of the show, and if you're just joining us, Will Smith has signed a 10-year, $140 million extension to be a Dodger for the next 10 years. It's $14 million per year. As far as average annual value, it gets dropped down a little bit by the deferred money on the Dodgers, and it's an absolute steal if you're the Dodgers, and you get one of the best catchers in the game of baseball, arguably the best catcher in the game of baseball for the longest time. It's an absolute steal for the Dodgers.
Andy Pages, hopefully he gets to make his major league debut this year. Check this one out from Hep C. This is a good one. You're watching Andy Pages on your screen here because we had a comment from Nando. How about Pages possibly coming up sooner than expected? I don't see that happening. I've said earliest July, August, all year. I hope I'm wrong on that. Do you see anywhere where I might be, Austin?
It depends on what happens at the major league club. Yeah. If everyone stays healthy, yes, it's going to be, and everyone performs at least somewhat decently, it's going to be at least a little while for Andy Pages before we see him, unless he's hitting 500 at the AAA level, which would be amazing.
I mean, it would be a James Outman coming down, right?
It would be a James
Gavin
Outman
Lux.
or a Gavin Lux coming down, or I guess I don't know if that's this extension impacts it, but a Will Smith. Those are the only guys, or you have to cut somebody.
Yeah. So, I mean,
So
it's not a matter of is Andy Pages ready to come up and play. I think we all agree that he is, and we all love Andy Pages. It's a matter of whose spot does he take on the 26. You can't just take anybody and say go back down the minor leagues. They have to have minor league options, and the only guys that do on the position player side are James Outman, who's a left-handed hitter, not a right-handed hitter, right? So you'd hate to make that swap. Gavin Lux, who, guess what? He is a left-handed hitter, and Will Smith is not ever going back down to the minor leagues unless it is on a minor league rehab assignment, correct? So the difficulty that you have there is not is Andy Pages ready, it's who does he replace, right?
Yep. So either there has to be, and you don't root for it, but there has to be some type of injury,
Correct.
or they're going to have to make a priority over somebody at the major league club, like a Jason Hayward, which right now, because they signed to a 1 year, $8-9 million deal, that is not going to happen until June at the earliest.
Yep. Hey, we have a great crowd. Check this one out. This is a doozy right here from Hep C. Trade deadline. Check this out, Austin. Dalton Rushing, Landon Knack, Maddox Bruns, Justin Robleski, Ural Perez for Randy Rosarina, and then Diego Cartaya, Peyton Martin, Zaire Hope, Ronan Kopp, Jose Ramos for Jesus Luzardo, and Tanner Scott.
Who's left in the farm system?
That's a doozy, isn't it? That's great, man.
Yeah.
That is that's awesome, Hep. I love that.
Yeah, and
Not ever going to happen, but I love that talk.
Based off of Andrew Friedman and his reluctance at times, and
No,
you could
not
say
at
that
times.
it's
All
over
times.
the,
Not
all
at
the time,
times. All
to
times.
to trade his prospects, to trade up. What is that? 10 different of guys for those players. While those players are incredibly good, that is pushing all of the chips in. I don't anticipate that happening, but
10 for 3.
That is certainly, What was that?
10 for 3.
Yeah.
The Dodgers give away 10 and get 3 back. I'm not saying it would be a bad move. I'm not saying that.
I guess it depends on who are the 3. And those 3 are really good, really talented players. And the Dodgers are going to do what they can do to make this team as airtight as possible. I just don't know if they'd be willing to pull that trigger.
It would be the most out of character thing that the Dodgers, going and getting Shohei Ohtani, that's not out of character. The Dodgers have shown that they will spend money if it's the right guy, okay? Going and getting Yoshinobu Yamamoto, trading for Tyler Glass now, that's not out of character for the Dodgers at all, okay? But trading 10 prospects for 3 major league players in return, man, Andrew Friedman, I'm telling you, if you've ever been to spring training, you think we love these prospects? Nobody loves these prospects like Andrew Friedman. I mean, we are not even close to being prospect huggers like he is. Trust me on that one. He is the biggest prospect hugger in the world. Well, just look at the way he does business, right? Can you hear me?
No, that's absolutely right. No, that is, that would be definitely out of character for Andrew Friedman. But with what has happened through the course of this offseason for the Dodgers, I guess you can never really say no to that right now.
Yeah, Cole says that realistically, the Dodgers catching prospects are 2 or 3 years away from being major league ready. I think Diego Cartaya, if he bounces back, I think he could. If there was openings in every other organization, like the Angels, where a guy gets drafted and 380 days later he's actually making his major league debut, which is happening all over the minor league or all over the major leagues, except for with the Dodgers. You got to understand that when you're talking about the Dodgers, it's a whole different ballgame than it is for other clubs. Jose Hernandez would barely be making it into AAA right now in the Dodgers system. He's entering now, his second full year as a major leaguer. Ryan Noda would still not have ETA'd in the major leagues. He's getting ready to start his second year in the major leagues with the Oakland A's. Okay, a guy like Jordan. I'm having a brain cramp here. The big the Jordan Leisure, man, gosh, Jordan Leisure with the White Sox. A guy like that with the Dodgers would never make it to the major leagues because they're going to always sign a Ryan Brazier. They're going to prioritize Daniel Hudson over him. And then that's not even before you get to Kyle Hurt, Michael Grove. He's going to be in the major leagues this year for the Chicago White Sox. So when you're talking
he's on the opening day roster.
Yeah, Jordan Leisure is?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, right. See, I tried to tell people that over and over and over, and they're like, huh? What? I'm like, just telling you, man, 7-foot extension. They graded his fastball out at 80 grade. I thought he would make it by the end of last year, but I promised that he would make it at least by the beginning of this year. I'll say this, he did it. Again, congratulations to Jordan Leisure. He would barely be in AAA right now for the Dodgers. That's just an absolute fact. Andy Pages, if he would have got traded to the Angels, this would probably be his third year in the major leagues right now if he didn't get hurt, right? Okay? So when you're talking about the Dodgers, it's a whole different scenario when you say they're 2 or 3 years away from being major league ready. Dalton Rushing and Diego Cartaya are major league ready right now. Now, are they major league ready for the caliber of the Dodgers system and the difficulty level of making the major leagues in the Dodger system? No. But are they major league ready compared to what's considered major league ready for almost every other organization? Is Hunter Fiducia major league ready? Is Chris Oak? Absolutely, 100%, completely, totally, and entirely they're major league ready. It's just a matter of, just comparing what organization you're in. Am I off there, Austin?
I still think Diego Cartaya and Dalton Rushing still have areas to where they feel like they can be major league players and they'd be ready for that. But they still have areas to where they can grow and improve at the minor league level. I still think next year, after Austin Barnes is off of his contract, there's going to be an opening for a catcher on this big league club, which is going to create opportunities for a Diego Cartaya who's going to be entering likely into his second season in Double A Tulsa to bounce back and show the type of prospect that he is, in which case he can enter into the conversation as far as can he be the backup catcher in 2025 for the Dodgers. For Dalton Rushing, who's going to be entering his first season at Double A Tulsa, you want to see how he adjusts at the Double A level. I think these guys are incredibly talented. In this system, it is incredibly hard. The opportunities are incredibly difficult to come about at the major league level just because of the Dodgers' tendency to bring in a lot of veteran talent. So these guys have an uphill battle to climb, which could delay some of their window of opportunity to make it to the big leagues. And we've seen that with a lot of other guys in this system. However, there is going to be opportunities, and especially if these guys perform to the capabilities of what they had, don't push their time frame just to 2 to 3 years, because in 2025, perhaps one of these guys could surprise you. There is going to be an opening. Perhaps one of these guys are going to fill it.
Yep, I would agree with that. Yeah, what do you think about Kyle Hurt? How would you evaluate? They're seeing him on the screen right here. How would you evaluate? Of course, he didn't give up a run in spring training. He had the outing where he gave up the run in Korea. How do you evaluate his performances?
I mean, it's difficult to do that, especially just based off of the one performance that he had during this season in 2024. I don't believe he pitched 2 innings, and that game was kind of a rough game to say the least for Dodgers pitchers, and he was the least of the Dodgers issues as far as the pitching. Mm-hmm. Pitched 2 innings, only gave up, I believe, just the 1 run. I think Kyle Hurt is going to be fine. I think he's going to be a good, solid pitcher. We talked about it a lot. Last year, he performed that he could strike just about everybody out at the minor league level, at the Double A level, and then into the Triple A level, had a 40% strikeout percentage. That plays. Yeah, and I think eventually you're going to see Kyle Hurt be able to figure it out and strike out a lot of major league hitters. He is getting up there in age, so you want to see what he's able to do. He's 25, almost 26 years old. I think he's going to get some opportunities at the big league level. And right now, with Blake Trinan and Brusdar Graterol not being ready to go, Kyle Hurt is going to get opportunities. And we'll have to see how Kyle Hurt does. I have no doubt that if given proper opportunities, Kyle Hurt is going to be effective, good, productive, and strike out a lot of big league hitters.
Don't want to sound whiny here, and because you take any opportunities that you can possibly get. You're seeing Miguel Vargas here. But I hate the 2-inning outings. Like if Michael Grove would have just got 1 inning in his first outing, he would have been fine. Same with Kyle Hurt. So you have the opportunity to have that second inning to give up a run, but then you don't have the 5 or 6 innings to where if you do give up a run or two, you can buffer that with the next 3 innings after that. It's just it's an incredible amount of pressure to go 2 innings because you go out there, you go 1 inning, you max out, you throw 9 awesome pitches, you're out of the inning, right? So that 2-inning outing presents the most amount of pressure because you get to the first inning, which are the inning you're in to face the matchups, even if you give up just 1 run in the 2 outings, that's a 4.5 ERA. And then again, you don't get to make up for that in your last 3 innings. So I would rather the Dodgers use guys either for 1 inning, or you can hear my Dodgers dogs in the background having a fit. Either use guys for 1 inning or use them for 4 or 5 and let them get comfortable and know that, hey, even if I do give up one run right here, I'm okay. I got 3 or 4 more innings to make up for it. And I think that will relax them a little bit more. So I don't like the 2-inning outings that they've been giving guys like Michael Grove and Kyle Hurt. But again, not complaining because anytime you get a chance to throw it to major league level, you take it and you run. You're looking at Miguel Vargas right here. We have a question. Was he sent down to AAA? Yes, he was optioned down to AAA. He will start on the Oklahoma City 89ers roster to start the season. I'm saying 89ers. You call it what you want. I'm calling them the 89ers.
I don't know. Last I checked, they were the baseball club.
No, they're the 89ers.
Miguel Vargas will be playing for the baseball club to at least start the 2024 season.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Seabad, good evening, says, take a look at the Twins Farm Club. Matter of fact, I get to see the Twins quite a bit because their AA affiliate is in Wichita, the Wind Surge. And the good old folks up there at Wichita, old Tim, he always hooks me up with media passes. My wife and I, we go up there and we make it a day. If you look at the John Rooney, the Braden Fisher, the Scott Hennessy interviews I did last year, they were all in Wichita. Eddie's Leonard, I did his interview from Wichita, so I love going up to Wichita. It's a great new park, that Riverfront Stadium they built right downtown Wichita. It's fantastic. So I get to see quite a bit of their shortstops. As a matter of fact, the shortstops that you're talking about, Austin, can't remember his last name right now. Awesome player.
Noah Miller.
Yeah, the very, very nice players. That Wichita team has been really good for 3 or 4 years in a row. And so, yeah, I actually get to see them quite a bit. Mr. Seabad's talking about the high-grade shortstops that the Twins have. That's where the shortstop gold glove mine is at. Yeah, so a very good club with shortstops, and he's talking about shortstop depth. Hey, Chris Fauborg says, I maintain that Mookie is going to end up in the top 5 for gold glove. He excels at anything with a ball. Carlos Garcia is watching from work, Austin. How about that? He says he loves the show, Carlos. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you watching. Again, that was Miguel Vargas you were watching on your screen there. Going to start with AAA Oklahoma City 89ers. I'm going to say that. So we have some more comments here, and we are getting down to the bottom and caught up here. Hey, guys, how cool was that seeing Jared Karros last night? Yeah, Jared Karros is a really cool dude. I had a chance to interview him earlier in the offseason, and the thing about him, he played at UCLA, and he played with his brother Kyle Karros, and his dad, Eric Karros, obviously would sit in the stands in the top row. And if you watch the interview, I kind of gigged with him. Hey, rumor is that your dad was more nervous watching you and your brother play than he ever got playing. And he said, yeah, that's true. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, you can't say enough about Jared Karros. Obviously, the fans in Los Angeles got to see Jared pitch, perhaps for the first time. Maybe they got a chance to see him in Rancho a little bit. I got a chance to see him down the stretch for Great Lakes, and there was few pitchers that were better than Jared Karros, than what he was down the stretch in the 2023 season for the Great Lakes Loons. He was absolutely insane, an anchor to the staff that helped elevate the Loons to the Midwest League Championship. I say this quite a bit, but this bears repeating. He is the pitcher who outdueled Jackson Jobe, perhaps the best pitching prospect in the game of baseball. Jared Karros outdueled Jackson Jobe twice in a week to eliminate Jackson Jobe's team from the playoffs, the West Michigan Whitecaps, to end the 2023 season. Then he went out there and performed exceptionally well in Game 3 against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps in the playoff series. I can't speak enough about how good Jared Karros is. In that moment that he had in Dodger Stadium with his dad on the call, with everybody knowing who he is, and to see him go out there and perform and get several strikeouts, absolutely amazing. Those are the moments that you love to see about the game of baseball. That was really cool to see.
Check this one out. You want to hear something really cool? Rourke Stevens listening on my bicycle with my Bluetooth speaker from Tokyo, Japan. How about that, Austin? How cool is that?
How about that?
Yeah.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And we love it when there are listeners from all over across the world. And so hello from the United States out there to Tokyo. Yeah, that is really cool to see.
Yeah. Mike says it was a really cool moment. Good evening, Mike. How are you? Mike says it was a great moment last night when Hope got to third base and told Dino that was a dream. Hey, Aaron Vaughn. Good evening, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining. Don't the Dodgers also have Troy Percival's son in the system? That would be Cole Percival. And actually, they let go of him just about this time last year. So he has not been in the Dodgers system for over a year, which surprised me because Cole Percival, they moved him to a relief role. He always struggled to throw strikes, but he was approaching 100 miles an hour and had 5 different pitches. So I really thought with the bloodlines he had, the Dodgers would keep giving him a good look.
Yeah, no, he was a really good pitcher during his time within the Dodgers organization. I believe he spent some time in the Angels organization, if I'm not mistaken, last year. I haven't really had a chance to look to see how he's doing, but he's still got a lot of talent, and there's still a lot of potential with him. But I don't know what his journey is right now. That's definitely something that I'll have to look up and catch up with him.
Daryl Jackson, good evening. Daryl, thank you so much for joining. Since Will Smith now signed an extension, what will happen? We've talked about earlier in the show. I think if you were thinking about trading Dalton Rushing, Diego Cartaya, or Tyrone Lorenzo, or any of your higher profile catching prospects like Yainer Fernandez, I think actually signing Will Smith to this extension is counterintuitive to doing that, because like whenever Dave Roberts, I'll give you an example. When Dave Roberts came out and announced that Mookie Betts was going to play second base, right? And now you have Shohei Ohtani at DH. You have Freddie Freeman at first base. Mookie Betts at second base. You'd already signed Max Muncy. So now every other club in the major leagues knows where are the Dodgers going to play Michael Busch? Nowhere, right? So how much leverage did the Dodgers have with Michael Busch at that point? They had none. So if you wanted to trade Dalton Rushing and Diego Cartaya, you needed to do it before you signed Will Smith to a long-term contract extension, because now you've lost all leverage, in my opinion. The expectations for this team are very high. Hey, let me ask you this, Austin. We're going to get into about one more conversation here and then get out of here on Friday or on Wednesday night in the Big Town. So you get Shohei Ohtani, you get Yamamoto, you get Glass now. You re-sign Max Muncy. You move Mookie Betts to second base. Now he's at shortstop. You re-sign Jason Hayward. You bring back Ryan Brazier. You bring back Kike Hernandez. It's been one of the most epic off seasons ever, which means that the expectations are going to be as epic as ever. So my question for you is, did the expectations raise a lot more than the positive margins on the field, Will? Did I state that properly? Like, are the Dodgers so much better on the field this year to match how much higher the expectations are for them this year?
Okay, so now that's a really interesting question.
Like,
and
let
I
me
think
start
this
with
is gonna
DH.
come down to,
Like, I know Otani's
Yeah.
great, but so is JD Martinez. So yeah, Otani's great, but what type of margin is Otani going to be that much better than Martinez? Are you following him? Is it worth the
Yes.
amount of added expectations and pressure this team has? That's kind of my question.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think one for designated hitter, JD Martinez, great, phenomenal, professional hitter, and I hope he does well, sign a contract with the New York Mets. I hope he has a lot of success during his tenure over for the New York Mets. Yeah, Otani it goes from a JD Martinez who last season, who kind of rebounded, had a 135 WRC plus, to Shohei Otani, who's going to have closer to a 160, 170 WRC plus, which is just that much more, which is the difference between JD Martinez and a league average offensive hitter. So there is a significant difference that a lot of these pieces are bringing in. You're bringing in a lot of pieces in the pitching side who could be ace level pieces, as well as a Bobby Miller who's coming up and developing. There is a ton of expectations for this club to be a World Series team. And that's exactly what this Dodgers club should be. They should have expectations of a World Series every single year. And I think even last year, even though I think realistically, if you look at some of the moves, they didn't go all out in the offseason like they had during this upcoming season or during this offseason. The expectation is and always should be for the Dodgers to go out and win the World Series. And I know that with the amount of talent that they've added, the expectations or the expectations that they will go out and actually achieve that are even greater. And I think the margins of which they've gotten better, especially at designated hitter, you've added who is arguably the best hitter in the game of baseball in Shohei Otani. You've added a Teoscar Hernandez to the outfield. I think that's an important piece. You added a Tyler Glass now, who has some of the, if not the best stuff pitching wise in the game of baseball. You've added a Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is going to have to make adjustments, but I still think can be a good, solid pitcher for this Dodgers club and can adapt to be a top of the line pitching piece. This is exactly what the Dodgers should be doing and exactly where the expectation should be. They should be in the World Series. They should be to this high standard because the amount of money that the Dodgers have, because of the resources, because of the development staff, because of the coaching staff. This is exactly where the expectations should be. And this is exactly what the Dodgers expect when they go out and they signed all of these guys and made all of these different trades to get this superstar team together. I think the expectations are worthy to be there. Now, will they reach that? They do have some areas. They're not a perfect club, as we've seen with some of the defensive roles, as we've talked a lot about potentially needing a dominant left-handed relief piece, as we've talked about potentially some of the injury concerns that could pop up on the pitching staff. Doesn't mean that they are the perfect, complete team. I don't think any team in the history of the game of baseball can say that. However, they have put themselves in the best position to possibly win, which means the expectations can and will be there, and they should be there.
I would agree. Do you have any more last comments before we get out of here?
Well, one, I just looked it up while you were talking a little bit. Congratulations, Cole Percival, who actually signed within the past 2 days with the Arizona Diamondbacks to be part of their minor league system. So I just took notice of that. That didn't pop up a whole lot, and that's what I'm seeing on Twitter. So I'm assuming that is accurate. It is great to be back here. Dodgers Daily. It is the eve before, as we've stated quite a bit in the past, domestic opening day. It's not the official opening day that happened in Korea a week ago, but for the Dodgers home opener, I know people in Los Angeles couldn't be more excited to see their 2024 Dodgers play in person. And this is really the official start of the marathon for this 2024 campaign, where there's going to be a lot of excitement. There's going to be there's so much talent for this Dodgers club, and they put a lot of resources to try to make up for a lot of the past things that have gone wrong for this Dodgers club. They have done everything that they can to this point to fortify their club and make sure that they have balance through their system. They can make adjustments throughout the course of the season. Enjoy the ride. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be Dodger Stadium is going to be rocking. I know it's going to be expensive, but it's going to be worth it because you get to see Hall of Fame players play for your Los Angeles Dodgers team. You just saw Will Smith get signed long-term to an extension. That is incredible, and that is something that a lot of other organizations, a lot of other fans of other organizations can't say. So enjoy this, and the expectations for this Dodgers team are really high because the talent level that this Dodgers team has is so good. So I'm super excited because it's time for Dodgers baseball.
All right, man. Thank you so much for joining, Austin. Great job tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. It was super fun. I know we missed our shows over the weekend, but we apologize for that, but we were super glad and super excited to get back to all of you wonderful Dodgers Dogs. So thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, go Dodgers.